Okay, so today we are going to catch up with Spectra Logic, and I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, you've been extremely busy in a number of ways. Maybe the place to start is looking a bit at what I think you're calling attack-hardened data management and storage in a multi-cloud world, which is a bit of a phrase, but perhaps you could break it down for us slightly. And I believe we're then going to come on to dare I say, a real world example of what you mean as well. But if you can start with just a sort of broad outline.
You bet. So your viewers, I'm sure, will recognize Spectra as a storage company. We've been around 40 years, private company, huge expansion over the last 20 years, actually. But we're really well known for storage. We're well known for tape, for big bulk NAS products, on-prem products mostly. Over the last 10 years, we've been getting into data management. So we launched our Black Pearl product almost 10 years ago as a simple interface to tape, a RESTful S3, on-prem Glacier kind of a product for tape. And then 2 years ago, we launched StoreCycle, a new software product that's designed to be able to scan data and get it where it belongs. Over the last few years, we've had huge expansions in Europe, actually, with big wins at CERN and ECMWF and a lot of the local research agencies, big tape libraries. So all that's great. But what we're really talking about this fall is exactly what you asked about, two major things. Attack hardening. So that to us is a protection from ransomware specifically. And that comes from the fact that we got hit last year with the NetWalker virus. And it was pretty dramatic for us as a company. And I'm going to actually walk everybody through what that looked like. We've got a really interesting story, and there's, I think, a lot for everybody to learn of what we went into. But the other big thing that we'll hope to talk about today is a brand new product launch, and it's the fulfillment, if you will, of our 10-year goal to really transform the company to this attack-hardened data management for the multi-cloud world. So for us, that means any data, any user, any site, multi-site, multi-cloud, multi-tier, essentially management of all your data in one big pool. So it's our intention really to do both. So yeah, you were asking about a real world example of what we went through. So if it's okay, let me just show you. All of our products are really designed around those two things that we just talked about, attack hardened and this multi-cloud data management solution. So again, we've been building tape libraries for a long time. If there's one thing people really know us for, it's probably that. Probably, if you've been in any data center at any major company, you've probably seen one of our tape libraries. They're dramatic, big storage machines. And like I say, we've been selling that Black Pearl for a while. But because we got hit by that NetWalker virus, it honestly, it spurred some passion in us. It was really irritating and something that caused a lot of trauma to our IT department. They were very upset by this and felt like that every IT department always feels like, well, could I have done more? What could I have done to protect? And we learned a lot of interesting things. And if it's okay, I'll share our story with you, because I think people are interested in seeing what we went through and what other things can we learn from somebody that's actually willing to talk about it. So we got hit May 7th of 2020 with the NetWalker virus, and it was a targeted attack that came in via email in a very specific targeted somebody that they thought they knew email, and please click on this. There's an emergency. You need to do this immediately, and they clicked on it. And no guilt there. Everybody falls for that. And it wasn't long. It actually triggered quickly, which was great for us. There's a lot of discussion about the new ones that maybe wait a while before they trigger and cause a lot of trouble internally and then really can do even more damage. But this one triggered quickly, and within an hour we knew what was going on, because it started giving us messages that basically the message was, colloquially, you're screwed. You're getting encrypted right now, and if you touch anything, it's going to just make it worse, which, by the way, is a lie. That's the worst thing you can do, because encryption is only part of the problem. The other part of the problem is it starts to attempt to open holes in your firewall and sell access on the dark web. That's the other piece, which is a perhaps an even bigger issue, because then you have IP and personal information liability and leaks and that sort of thing. So the fact that we jumped on it really quickly was really good. And I'll tell you, really interesting little side note is the IT folks, if you go back and interview them, the part that they remember wasn't really the chaos. Originally, it was that after they got through unplugging everything and yanking all the wires and powering down all the servers, the data center was silent. And so they walked in as a group and said, this is really bad. This room has never been silent in the history of the company. We know something's really bad. And that's what they remember back to it. So we actually called the FBI, which is the local law enforcement, well, the federal law enforcement agency that looks over this sort of thing. I had to leave a message for them. It was very awkward. Hey, we're getting attacked. Can you call me back? And they did. They called us back in an hour or two and gave us a lot of advice. Turns out the ransomware folks actually provide a really great tool that lets you calculate how much you owe them. So it's actually very organized, and they communicate well with you and give you these great tools. I got to hand it to them. This isn't just a single, random person. This is, it's an organized thing. But they wanted almost $4 million from us. And because we're a storage company, and because, we had things set up properly, we were doing the right snapshots, we had tape backups, we knew that we could get it all back. And quite frankly, we, perhaps partly out of pride and partly out of, there is no way I'm letting these people take advantage of us, we said, we're not going to pay that ransom. So we said no. And that, another interesting thing for your listeners is they give you a very short deadline. And they do it on purpose, right? They don't want to give you weeks to try to figure out, can you dig yourself out? It's a couple of days, and you have to make a decision. And if you don't, they'll cut all contact with you, which is really what we wanted anyway. But that's so that you don't have time. So the moral of that one is, you got to have a plan up front. You can't wait to make all of those decisions when you get hit, because there's so much chaos going on. Trying to get critical business systems back up, you really don't have time to make those kind of decisions. So, plan up front. Keep in mind there's other problems besides just the encryption, and there are resources out there to help you. If there's forensic analysis folks that can jump in and tell you, how bad it is. Has any data leaked? Are all the holes plugged? How do I find the virus on my snapshots and get a clean one? So there's folks that can help you. So we were able to get back up pretty quickly. We said no, and that translated into this concept of attack-hardened. And I've been using this attack-hardened phrase as if it were a well-known word. We trademarked it. It's a phrase we came up with to say, hey, storage can play a part in protecting against ransomware, and in fact, the concept of business continuity of. It's not just about protection. Nobody can guarantee you 100% protection. That's ridiculous. You should be wary of any company that says, buy my stuff and you're 100% protected. But extra layers don't hurt. They absolutely help. And storage in particular has some unique characteristics that not everybody is leveraging to get you back up and running quickly. And if I can get you back up and running, get critical business processes back up, within minutes, find a clean copy, even if it's a little ways back, let's at least get the systems back up and running, and then do forensic analysis. We believe there's a lot more that can be done to, shut these folks down. So that's basically our story. And again, our CEO had such passion around this. It was we had a meeting, multiple meetings over the next few weeks, but I specifically remember one, and he's like, whatever you're doing, drop it. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to focus on what can we do across our entire portfolio to help our customers not go through this chaos that we just went through. What can we do to help protect themselves and to put up systems that they can get back up and running very quickly? So we've launched across our entire portfolio a series of features that are really targeted at this. So good story, and it's I think everybody has a lot to learn, and we're really happy to share it. So if there's any IT folks that are thinking about this or, want more information, we're making basically our head of IT available to talk to folks if they want to just consult and ask, what have you done since then and how you're protecting yourself? Give us a call. We'd love to help you out.
That's a brilliant insight there. And I guess, although the ransomware side of things, not strictly the story, but I guess it's sort of illustrating that the world is much more complicated than, I mean, when I got in the storage industry, probably 20 years ago, it was a relatively simple thing. And part of the complexity, not just the bad guys, but is the cloud world has arrived. And then not just the cloud world, it was then the hybrid cloud, and then it's the hybrid multi-cloud. And I believe that the launch we're going to talk about today is relating to that. So it's hybrid multi-cloud management software. So can you give us a sort of, I guess, a bit of background as to the thinking about it, and then obviously talk us through what it is, what it does.
Absolutely, be happy to. And essentially this fall, there's three main things that we're talking about. And as you saw in the beginning, known as a storage company, this really is a transformative fall for us. We've been working on this product that we're going to talk about in a moment for over 5 years, mostly in secrecy, but we've actually got it up and running at quite a few customers. And once you get to that point, there's lots of folks that know about what we're doing. But officially, this will have launched October 20th by the time everybody sees this. Three major announcements that we're working on is the whole suite of attack-hardened products. And we'll talk about a few of those as we go along, but they're based on that story. That's the ransomware story is the reason why we did that. And then the other two, enhancements to our core Black Pearl products. That's the on-prem, both NAS object storage, on-prem Glacier product. But really exciting is this Vail. And Vail's what we, like I say, been working on 5 years under the cover. And we believe is really a definitive product that solves core customer issues that are either trying to move to the cloud or have a hybrid process, which is almost everyone. Very, very few companies have the ability to move 100% to the cloud. There's almost always something left behind. And so you're forced to, how do I have workflows that work across both on-premise and cloud? Or how do I work across multiple clouds? Because each cloud is different. Some have better services for media and entertainment. Some have better AI services for, whatever sports or, data analysis. Some are better at speech to text and translation. And the variety of storage they have available is boggling, how many options there are, the speed of access, the depth of storage, the cost. And so rarely can you choose one cloud that really is optimal for every process that you have. What I really want is to be able to use them all and use them dynamically without getting hit with all of the costs for moving things around. So those are the kinds of problems that we're trying to solve. And this multi-cloud data management software, we added the word distributed. You'll see why in a minute, but it's a software system that overlays all of that and gives you unification of access and data placement together in one software package. And that's the product we call Vail. So we basically talked already about these answer your question about what our customers asking for. It's straightforward. I want hybrid systems. I want multi-cloud systems. I want the ability to move data around, and I want it all to work together. And interestingly, depending on what market segment your viewers are from, if we go back 10 years, everybody was looking to high performance computing to be they're the ones that lead in the fastest possible storage and the incredible bandwidths that most of us just dream of, hundreds of gigabytes per second of data moving around inside of a data center. How do we get just pieces of that in other market segments? Well, interestingly, the media and entertainment segment is leading the way in cloud adoption, partly because Amazon has amazing services of facial recognition and transcode, and they've been able to pull a lot of those businesses into the cloud. But what they've really done well are these seamless workflows, in end users not being able to even know where data is or what's acting upon it. And our goal is to apply those services that we've deployed for media and entertainment into basically the rest of the world. Let's all learn from media and entertainment now. And that is this Vail product. The goal is to unify all of your data and be able to use both on-prem and cloud, both services and storage, regardless of where it's created or stored. So if it's okay, I'll just show you the product and how it works. I've got pictures instead of a bunch more words. I like pictures. So imagine I've got a variety of users up there at top. Could be humans, could be, I've got media and entertainment in the middle. I'm pulling in a video I've taken, maybe a sporting event or football or something, or machine generated data. Could be genomics, could be weather data. All of those software packages now generically understand how to talk to the cloud. So if you've got something that knows how to talk to Amazon S3, we've got a system. You just repointed us instead of Amazon, and we give you all of the capabilities, for instance, that Amazon has with storage. But now we're adding multiple site, multiple cloud to that. So our software, so pure software product that is S3, it looks like Amazon if you're talking to it, has the ability to go in and adopt existing storage. So if you've got a site that has storage that you bought and you've been using for years, block storage, or maybe some vSAN from VMware, or some random existing disk, if you can present me a LUN, that kind of connectivity or IDE, I can adopt that and present it as S3. So that's not really unique. There's lots of software that does that. MinIO, for instance, can adopt block storage and present it as S3 for free. So if that was all, that that's kind of boring. That wouldn't be much of an announcement. But we can also go and adopt any cloud and any tier in any cloud. So if you've got storage in AWS, or you have it in AWS, but now you want to expand into Azure and Google, or Wasabi or others, no problem. We can adopt that and present it as just one big pool of storage through a single S3 interface with a powerful policy engine. But it doesn't stop there either, obviously. Some customers don't have their own storage already and need to add local on-prem S3 storage. So again, wouldn't it be great if I could build the equivalent of Amazon S3 in my own data center for some processes, local cloud storage, essentially. So that Black Pearl that we've been selling for years now has a pure S3 interface. So it is now scale up local S3 standard storage. And in fact, very dense. Unlike other systems, you can get up to 20 petabytes in a single rack of this storage for very economically. So this is scale up storage based on the same technology that our NAS is. And you'll see it's a fraction of the price of anything else that's out there in that class. The same box also, again, for 10 years has been presenting tape library as Glacier. So that concept is not new, presenting a tape library as S3, as Glacier. That's a 10-year-old concept that we've been servicing a lot of industries with that. But now, as part of this big system, I can present tape libraries as Glacier as just another storage target. And we have a very capable policy engine that can say, hey, I want data in London and Madrid for the first 30 days. And then I want it on actual Amazon Glacier for the next 6 months. And then I want also a permanent copy in my data center on tape forever, so that I permanently own a copy, and we can manage the data across all of those sites and across all of those clouds. So very similar to Amazon, we have tiering policies that you can put it in one place and move it off to Glacier or deep storage, but this product expands that horizon to multiple sites, multiple clouds. Up there in the top, you can see our universal access goal is any user, any data, any site, any cloud. And it just looks like one big pool of storage. So my bucket that the user sees could actually be their local. It could be on a cloud. It could be moved around over time. And we give users and administrators the ability to have full access to that data and to place it where it belongs. And that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle, is we have the ability to integrate directly Amazon services as well and other cloud services. So I can do really interesting things with a policy. I can say, hey, I've got a bucket that I'm using that the user doesn't even need to know this, but the policy for that bucket says, well, put it on this disk that you've adopted. So again, pure software play, running it on a VM, for instance. When I access through that Vail node as S3 and I push some data into it, it's actually going onto some disk I already own. But because the policy says that's really important data, and I want a copy of that data to also immediately appear on Amazon Glacier, we handle that automatically in the background, and the user doesn't even know. They still have full fast access to their local copy, but in the background, I'm making a cloud copy for them automatically. So same kind of thing applies for cloud services. I can have a bucket. Let's say I'm taking a video of a football game, Manchester, whatever, and I'm saving it to my local disk. Well, I've got a bucket that says anything that goes to that local disk, because it's video, I want you to push it to Amazon and trigger a whole series of cloud services. I want you to transcode that video to 12 different formats for iPhones and iPads and streaming services. I want you to do facial recognition, identify every player on the field. And they've got some pretty scary and amazing services that do things like that. You can do speech to text, create closed caption. You can translate it to 12 different languages. And if you so choose, you can live stream out of Amazon. But the beauty is that 8K really expensive, huge file that I sent up to Amazon to be processed, I can actually abandon because I have my local copy. So I don't have to pay egress fees. I just take the results of that and I can maybe pull them back automatically to some local system, put it on tape for long-term preservation of all that metadata. So you can see a system like this is really interesting. I've got a system that already has been talking to Amazon, but I'm limited by what Amazon can give me directly. I want a local copy, or I want to eventually put a copy in Wasabi, or I want it on local S3 disk as well. So the expansion of this using a software system that can front end all that storage gives you universal access, gives you the ability for orchestration and data placement, gives you the ability to directly trigger cloud services, and basically just make it all work together. So now my on-prem and my cloud just truly work together as if it were some system that I designed and owned all of it. And that's our goal. And that's this distributed idea that we've come up with means those Vail nodes can run on virtual machines. They can run on our hardware. They can run in the cloud. It's just software that helps you unify everything that you're doing.
Okay, and in terms of the policy, it sounds as if it's, for obvious reasons, based around the performance, if you like, where's the best place to have what type of storage in terms of who wants to use it when. Is there already, or is there a possibility in the future to add sort of financial information so you can also not just decide because of performance, but also where it might be the most cost-effective place to place some storage for a period of time, or is that already there, or is that a future plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And very insightful. There's multiple ways to set policies. And part of it is financial analysis, of course, is keeping a local copy. If you own one local copy of your data, even if it's on really deep storage of some sort, and we're of course a tape company. Not every company is interested in tape. So not shown here, there's also a spin down disk option. So a very low cost, deep, low-cost disk option that can be presented as Glacier. But if you own one copy, all of a sudden you have the ability to avoid almost all egress fees. And that calculation, especially in combination with some of our higher level software products, StoreCycle, allows you to do that financial analysis. I can look at my data, I can actually assign costs to each individual storage target and run estimates. What happens if I make this decision and move data from here to there based on what I believe the costs are? What does that mean from a cost saving standpoint? And it gives you insight into how to set those policies properly. Our policies are very intelligent and help with data placement. So we do some really interesting things to attempt to get data to where it belongs, to optimize not just cost, but performance. So if I know that a customer is going to ask for data in a particular location at a particular time, there's great things I can do to pre-place data in that location so they're not waiting on. So people's time is just as important as the actual cost of storage, and we try to take both into account.
And it looks to me from what I've seen that this is as near as if not actual sort of seamless data management right across, as you say, on-prem cloud. Is that what you think it is, or is there anything else that needs adding, or is it pretty much that you've just got one view? As you say, it doesn't matter to most people what's under the hood, if you like, but they just see one view of the whole storage environment. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And our goal is to the end user, they don't even know that all of this is going on in the background. Right? They point their software at one of these nodes. In fact, they think they're talking to Amazon. They can ask if they'd like. They can ask the system where things are placed, and there is a GUI available if administrators choose to give them access, and it gives them real insight into bandwidth and placement and what the policies look like. But generically, you see a bucket with your stuff in it, and if you ask for that stuff, you can get it back regardless of your physical location, and even if that stuff doesn't reside in your physical location. So another little thing we don't show on here is, this really is a big implementation. Really great for customers that have multiple sites, multiple clouds. You can imagine there's large customers that this would work well for. But the other piece of this is we are running a captive version of this software directly on the Black Pearl, which is the next thing we'll show you. So you can also apply this as essentially a very simple appliance that has built-in storage, that has these cloud capabilities on the background, but that are built in as a captive software. But you don't have to deploy thousands of sites to get the advantage of this. You might just have one location. I just need a local S3 storage that has some real cloud intelligence to it. And we do that as well directly with the Black Pearl. So that's the other piece of the story.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a good point to move on to. You've mentioned Black Pearl a couple of times. So that, if I'm right, that's your sort of hybrid storage platform. And I believe you have, as I say, you've been very busy in recent times, but you've added some significant functionality to that. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Luckily, I'm the product guy for the company, and so I love talking about the products. But we have been very busy. This is multiple years in development, and so this Black Pearl is 10 years old, and because of that, we have lots of customers and lots of input. Our customers are not shy. Here's what I want you to do. The next thing that you need for this product, and a lot of it is flowing from the same conversation we just had about cloud. They're seeing what the cloud does for them. This flexibility of, I can expand my storage dynamically, and how do I gain some of those things for on-prem storage? Because a lot of the systems that we as on-prem vendors have been providing for years are very locked in. You need 100 terabyte storage that does this kind of a speed, no problem. I'll sell you that. But if I need another 100 terabytes, it's not easily expandable. You got to buy more servers and more things. This scale out architecture, it's expensive to expand. And we said, well, there's got to be a better way. And customers are looking for the cloud interfaces, and they're looking for attack hardened, and they're, and of course it's all about cost. So there's pretty standard things you would imagine. And the answers, if you go back a couple of years, the answers were really about cost and reliability. And of course those haven't gone away. But there's definitely been a shift to, flexibility, cloud integration kind of responses when you ask what are the most important things to you. And so that's this Black Pearl product. It's been out there a long time. We're well known as we launched it originally as a RESTful interface to tape. So it's tape as on-prem Glacier, essentially. And we've been doing that for 10 years. Again, nothing really new there. There's a number of companies that do similar things, but we're really dominant in that space because we're integrated already with most of the software packages for especially media and entertainment, high performance computing. And it's really well known as well because it's a kind of a dual function platform. It's that, but it's also a scale up NAS box. So you can buy a Black Pearl with basically just disks in it and scale it up today to about 16, 17 petabytes in a rack very economically. And we're announcing expansion up to 20 petabytes if necessary. At the addition of PCIe Gen 4, faster core processor. So there's all that speed and feed stuff that's frankly kind of boring, and if we go back 2 or 3 years, that'd be the big announcement. I got a box that's 3 times faster than it was last year. Everybody write about that. It's really interesting. But that's just support, right? For this, the really interesting part is the software that runs on top. But it is 2 or 3 times faster than what we had last year. But what we're announcing are 2 major things: some attack-hardened capabilities added to the box, and I'll walk you through what those are, and then the addition of the local S3 storage capability, in effect, a captive version of Vail that runs on Black Pearl. I'll show you both of those. So our goal with the attack-hardened enhancements is to protect against, of course, both internal and external threats. And as you saw in our story, it may sound a little cheesy, but our goal is to give customers the ability to say no to the ransomware. And there's a whole lot that goes into that: the protection, the ability to get back quickly, and quite frankly, our experience now having gone through that, where we've trained our professional services folks, and they are absolutely happy to help customers create a plan of how do I prepare for that day, and so that it's not quite as chaotic. I know exactly what to do in what order. We're not the end answer to everything as storage. You have to work together with the software packages that protect you, but we'd love to help in that. But we're also adding specific features. And so we actually use ZFS as the underlying file system. It's enterprise grade, really capable file system. And one of the things that offers is immutable snapshots. So snapshots aren't new. If you are an IT person or you deal with any kind of storage, you should absolutely know what snapshots are, and you should be using them. It's really critical as one of the protection methodologies. But we've added a really interesting capability here, the ability to manage those snapshots in a way that gives you essentially time addressable storage. So I can mount snapshots individually as read-only immutable volumes that even if ransomware begins to get into those snapshots, I have the ability to go and not infect myself, but I use it as a read-only volume. I can quarantine what I have. I can go back and find the cleanest one and make that the active volume and get back up and running quickly. But in the process, if I make a copy, if I do replication of those snapshots, I can get back up quickly, but I can also have all of those snapshots as the ransomware was progressing, so I can do forensic analysis. So that's important, certainly for law enforcement, but it's just as important to your chief executive that was working on some critical file over the weekend and saved it back to the server in the process of while the encryption was happening. And he says, I know that ransomware was hitting us, but I got to have that file. You got to dig through and, a week after the ransomware was working, find the latest version of that file that wasn't encrypted. You need the ability to do that as well. And so what we've done is we've put a whole new API into the system that allows higher level software, backup software, data protection software, to communicate with the storage and say, hey, I'm done with my job. Storage, you need to go protect yourself. Go raise the drawbridge. Go disconnect yourself from the network, or make that volume read-only and take a snapshot and wait until I call you again. And when I call you again, open yourself back up. So the ability for an external piece of software to be in control of those snapshots means I have a lot better chance of getting whole files and getting them, in a time sequence of when you should actually be taking that snapshot. So big thing we've added. I went into more detail on that. I'll go to anything else, but we added full multi-factor, multi-human authentication. We added self-encryption, so self-encrypting drives, encryption at rest. That doesn't protect you against ransomware, obviously. You can, ransomware can encrypt an already encrypted file, but it does protect against internal threats very well. People yanking a drive out and doing what they will with it, leaving the data center, very common for the cloud guys as well. The replication of those snapshots. And of course, it's important to use the word air gap properly. People use that word a little bit willy-nilly of what air gap is. Air gap only really applies if I truly take a storage volume offline, if there's a true break in the connection. Of course, tape provides that, or a true network disconnection provides that, but it also isn't the ultimate protection. You need multiple layers. So we're doing all of those things and more, and we'll publish exactly how all of that works with our partners and with our resellers and our distributors, so they'll have access to all this information. But we'll carefully control the content, because the more you tell people about your solution, the more open it is. So all of that will be available. And then the last part is this native S3 interface. So recall, Black Pearl can be part of this very broad, amazing Vail solution, but it is also a standalone product. So if you haven't deployed the big Vail, I can also take that standalone product and say, hey, I want local S3 storage. Well, you know, in a great way, it's based on our scale-up NAS technology, ZFS, FreeBSD. So we're building Z pools, and that's a really economical way to expand storage. Again, over 20 petabytes in a rack. You know, again, at fractions of what you pay for what you think of as scale out or the, you know, the big primary storage. And most object storage is perfectly served by this architecture. So we present a pure S3 interface. And again, just like Vail, if I've got a piece of software that's been pointed at Amazon and all it's doing is S3 storage, literally the only thing you change is the endpoint. You change the IP address that it's pointed to. You still use your Amazon credentials to log into our system. Your software thinks it's talking to Amazon, but it's talking to our local S3 storage. But it has all of those same capabilities that the Vail system has. It has the cloud storage policy option. You can do multi-site, but instead of, you know, this complicated Vail setup, maybe I'm adopting existing storage, I just add another Black Pearl at the other site, and they can talk to each other and share data between them. Still have all of that integration to the cloud services, and we still present tape as on-prem Glacier, all from just this appliance that you buy and put on site. So this is the scaled down version. Maybe I have 1 or 2 sites, or I just have a need for on-prem S3, but we give you all those same Vail capabilities without having to do the big expansion. So those are the pieces. And then just a quick nod, if you don't mind, to
could I just quickly ask them? I'm just interested in the multi-factor authentication. What do you do with that? Yeah. So
we chose to implement the Google Authenticator as our primary. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if we go back a few years, we used to hand out these, I think we called them RSA keys. It was the little key fob that had a rotating number. So Google's come up with a way to do that essentially with your cell phone. So when you log into the system, it presents essentially a QR code that you scan from your cell phone, and that gives you that rotating I think it's every 30 seconds or so, you get a new number. So in addition to your username and password, you need that key. So that gives you single user authentication. There also is a 2 human, we used to refer to, in the US as the nuclear launch keys. You have to have 2 humans that each have a key and you turn them at the same time. You have that capability as well. So that's really good for internal threats. I want into the system, I present the key, I have to call my IT administrator, he verifies it with me, and then I'm able to get into the system. So that keeps, individual rogue people from being able to get in and destroy pools or destroy snapshots and do that sort of thing.
Okay, no, thanks for that.
And there's a lot of other capabilities, obviously, and some of them we want to kind of keep under the wraps and just talk about with our alliance partners, and some we want to talk about publicly. Part of this is, in the US, very common to have, a home alarm, and the research says the most protective part of the home alarm system is the little sign you put out front that says you have a home alarm. So working with our alliance partners, we say we've got a really great partnership with these backup folks. And if you implement a Spectra system with that backup software package, there's 5 more layers of software protecting you. Ransomware folks, go somewhere else. That's part of the goal too. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere easier. So quick nod, if you don't mind, I'll show you how attack-hardened actually fits in with our product, and you can imagine how this will work with a backup product as well. So StoreCycle is a storage lifecycle management software package. So imagine a software package that can go scan all of your primary storage. You got whatever, 10 petabytes of Isilon or NetApp or whatever, and it's full and you don't know why it's full as an IT admin. I gave people access and they filled it up. What am I going to do now? Well, StoreCycle can go create an analysis of that data and say, here's all the stuff that's 2 years old that nobody's touched in 2 years. It really shouldn't be stored on that really expensive storage. Let's move it off to something cheaper, but still have access. So users don't even know that it's moved. It does things like that. So one of the places it can move it, of course, you saw in the last slide, it can push to the cloud or third-party storage, but it can move it into a Black Pearl. So wouldn't it be great so you imagine StoreCycle now works on a job basis, kind of like a backup software. Backup works on jobs. Wouldn't it be great if at the end of a job, I could tell the storage, I'm through writing to you for the day, lock yourself up, actually protect yourself. I would then have the ability to make the volume read-only, to take a snapshot of that volume, to really protect it and make sure that nothing else could get into it from the side while there are no jobs running. And then the next day, when I'm ready to run jobs again, open yourself, back up to being able to write again. So that's that link, that triggered snapshot link. And we provide some very simple pre-job and post-job scripting that we can give to our backup partners that have the ability to trigger those snapshots. So that's how that all works together.
Okay, and I mean, what we've been talking about is both the sort of cloud world and the on-prem and hybrid. Is it? I know again the history of storage. There've been various trends, but do you think hybrid is sort of here to stay, in that everybody understands that not everything belongs either on-premise or in the cloud? It's horses for courses or whatever, or do you still think there's an underlying trend towards more and more subscription-based sort of cloud-type services, just because a lot of people don't want to be bothered with the IT? They're just happy to pay the utility model fee. Just any thoughts as to what you're seeing, I guess, with your customers on those different approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. There's a shift to the cloud. So let's start there. Any company that fights that or resists that is in the way of a big bulldozer, right? There is a shift to the cloud. There are huge advantages to shared, cloud-based services, subscription models, paying monthly. But we've yet to see many companies that have the ability to 100% move to the cloud efficiently. And so everybody has something, left behind. There's some incredible success stories in the US. There's some large TV networks that made a decision, 5 years ago. I'm moving to it was not quite this dramatic, but it was basically, we're moving to the cloud next Thursday. And, doesn't matter, hell or high water, we're going to the cloud. Well, 5 years later, we're still 90% there, right? There are always some things left behind. So we're all forced into these hybrid workflows. So it's always going to be a combination. And, some workflows just don't lend themselves perfectly to the cloud. Well, I think we'll eventually get there, but, not in the immediate future. And so we're forced to try to figure out how to balance CapEx, OpEx, subscription versus purchase. And, part of, if you imagine our Vail product, I hate to come back to our product, but if you imagine our Vail product, part of that is that flexibility. This, I know I'm going to have to move to the cloud eventually. Let's be honest, whatever it is, 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, I've got a lot of processes that are going to move there. Wouldn't it be great if you began to adopt systems that gave you that flexibility? Happy to work 100% on-prem right now. Happy to work 100% in the cloud. In fact, one of the customers I'll show you bought no Spectra equipment at all. They're running Vail completely virtually in a cloud environment. Wouldn't it be great if I could just come in every week and decide how much more I wanted to move the cloud and push a button and have a system that enables you to do that? So we're actually working very closely with the cloud providers. They're very excited about products like this because it enables people to have that decision much more fluidly than they can do, on their own with just the tools available.
That's right. I was just going to ask, this may be a silly question or not, bearing in mind the type of products you offer, but the edge is another massive growing sector. I guess primary storage is important there because the processing has to happen in near real time, so the storage has to be reasonably fast, etc. But I'm just wondering, are you finding any sort of differences with people going out to the edge for applications for yourselves, or is it because it's always coming back from the edge to you in a more central location? Just any thoughts as to, I guess, whether the edge is having any impact on yourselves, or if that's a different part of the storage market?
No, I think this applies perfectly. And I think the difference in our philosophy is when people talk about the edge, it's usually I'm moving into the cloud as edge. We believe that's a bidirectional thing. The edge should support really data in both directions. And a product like this, as you might imagine, works perfectly in wherever I'm going to set up my processes. They may be core cloud processes, they may be edge, they may be on-prem. Any combination, storage has to follow. And so regardless of what that storage looks like, we can adopt it and present it to those local processes, regardless of what that process and workflow looks like. And so systems like this work very well with distributed systems like that. And so I've actually got a couple of examples of how customers are using it that I think answer some of your questions there. This one is a US federal agency. They do a lot of natural resource monitoring. Is really the, oops, sorry, I went backwards. Is really the best way to describe them without naming them. They're making predictions about bad things that will happen in the US that they report to the federal government, and they make disaster recovery decisions based on this. They have over 1,000 ingest points. I say worldwide, across the US, Alaska, Hawaii, big swath. And a lot of different types of storage in those 50 offices, 1,000 ingest points. And then they have 2 big supercompute sites in Midwest cities in the US. And then they publish everything out through AWS. Part of their mandate is everything has to be published publicly. They have to publish all the raw data and all the process data for any researcher that wants access. Very similar to a lot of the European agencies. You have to process and post all of your data. And they ran into some issues of how do I get all of that data from all of those sites to those supercompute sites, and then how do I make sure that it all gets published without a human being involved, because humans make mistakes, right? And if you're a government agency, you don't want to be not publishing data. The US is strange. Everybody thinks there's a conspiracy if data doesn't get published. That you sure you didn't know about that volcano before, whatever it is. So we have to make sure that it all gets processed properly. So you'd imagine a Vail system has an ability to link all of that. So this isn't really edge processing because it's data ingest and central processing on-prem, but then that on-prem translates into published data that gets pushed into AWS. So it's an on-prem process up until the supercompute, and then it's a cloud process after. But a system like Vail has the ability to pull data in from all those remote sites, 10 or 20 terabytes a day, essentially manually in the past pulled in, but now automated, and then pushed all of the process data to AWS. And one of the things I didn't mention is one of the things we're looking at is this doesn't have to be Spectra hardware, and it doesn't have to be a VMware stand to set up a Vail node. I think everybody's probably familiar with the little Synology and QNAP, low-end, consumer boxes for whatever, 300 quid. You get 5 terabytes of storage for your home in a nice little NAS box. Well, as it turns out, you can run a Vail node on one of those. And so for a very low cost, I can present a Vail node as an ingest point or as an endpoint. But really interesting, instead of, when you look into that box through the S3 interface, instead of just seeing your 5 terabytes, if this company or organization has 100 petabytes behind it, looking into that box, I see 100 petabytes if I have access to it, given credentials. So it's that unification of data. You don't have to have all that data local. You have to have access to all of that data local. And I need some system that can serve it up efficiently to me, point to point, without going through the cloud and creating ingest fees or egress fees. Let me show you one more. It's really interesting. This is a media conglomerate. We're servicing 2 or 3 of these in the US actually. We call them station groups. I don't know if that resonates, but if you go back 10 years, each city in the US had 2 or 3 of these TV stations that a human owns that station, and they do news, and they're usually affiliated with one of the big networks, NBC, CBS, or whatever, but they're owned by a person or a company. And over the last 20 years, bigger companies have been gobbling those stations up. And I think there's a rule about antitrust, something you're not allowed to own more than 30 stations or so. I forgot what the rule is, but you imagine a company comes in and buys 30 stations, but the rule generally for lowering costs is let's make everything the same across all 30 stations and share resources. That's perfectly logical. So you come in and say, I want you to all be the same. And they all go, well, we're all completely different. We've all been buying different storage and different cameras and different editors and transcode engines, whatever it is. Okay, buy us all new equipment. Okay, well, that's not economical. That's not the way to save money. So wouldn't it be great, again, if you had a system that could come in and adopt all of those different disparate types of storage, present it all as S3, and so every editor can see everybody else's media and it all just works together? Wouldn't it be great if there was a software package that could do that and integrate into a single AWS account? Because there's huge benefits in, every person in the company shouldn't have their own AWS account. It should all be under an organization, and you save a lot of money. So let's get rid of those individual accounts and let's start using cloud services. Let's use Amazon for transcode and closed caption and broadcast, and not have all of that equipment at every site. So unification is really important. Universal access, unification. And we did one other interesting thing for them. We created what we call a breaking news bucket. So yeah, I don't know if all of your viewers have been to the middle of the US, but there's large areas, full states that are corn. Not to make fun of our own, but we do. There's large pieces where there's a city and it's surrounded by miles and miles as you fly over the crop circles and and farming. And sometimes stations will go a long time without a huge amount of interesting things happening there. But every once in a while they get kind of the shot of their life. Something really interesting happened, and they want it on the news in all 30 stations that night. And if you're familiar with how news works, they usually just start editing 5 minutes before they go on air. And sometimes it's the keep talking announcer, because I'm still rendering the video that's going to play right when you're finished. Well, what you don't want is all 30 stations to all be requesting that video either from the cloud or directly from the little station that has not the best bandwidth. Wouldn't it be great if I had a bucket I could put my my amazing video into that directly pushed that to the desktop of every news editor, so that when they're ready to get ready for the evening news, it was right there and they had access from a local disk. So we do universal access plus data placement to make sure that customers can get what they need. So you can imagine now we can take that a step out to say, where else could that be applied? Really amazing things for finance and oil and gas and federal and research and universities. That big thing now is universities come in clumps of 2 or 3 and they want to share data. Maybe they don't all have a big supercompute site. Maybe one has supercompute and one has storage and one has researchers. How do I make it look like all of those things work together? So you can see how systems like this will help to unify and I think save everybody money, even in this transition to the cloud. So really great things there.
Yes, it's been brilliant. But are you able, it seems greedy because you shared a lot and there's a lot of things you've been up to as a company, but is there anything else on your roadmap that you think the company needs to do or wants to do in the next 12, 18 months? Or do you think because you've done so much now, you're going to be busy refining that and therefore, you're going to take a pause? Or what else might be on the roadmap? I understand you don't want to give away any trade secrets or anything, but if you can share anything.
Absolutely. We're continuing to put a lot of work into the Vail and Black Pearl. So huge focus for us. And as you might imagine, this is only the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to be done here to help with automation. A lot of AI work, a lot of intelligence and data placement, analysis work that people are looking for, integration with our alliance partners. We're also putting a lot of work into our tape systems. And it's a funny thing. Not every customer we talk to is a tape customer, but the customers that are buy a lot. We've actually had the best couple of years in the history of the company of tape, and a lot of that has to do with Europe. We sold. So this is actually a U.S. company, government agency. This is the largest. How do I put that? The largest storage machine on the planet. So it stores more data in one physical device than anywhere else. So it's 24 frames wide. It approaches an exabyte of data in a single machine. But we have customers that buy multiples of these, and we're really sorry, going the wrong way. We love putting these car wrap graphics on them for customers because if it's something that big, it's usually the center of a data center. So ECMWF, CERN, AWE, Los Alamos, any of the big data centers you go to, the big government research labs probably have one of our libraries in it. We're really dominant in this space, and even media and entertainment has a lot of these. Where many of those customers are less public about who they buy things from, so we don't necessarily put them on these slides. But that's certainly a big part of what we do. So we're heavily investing in software. We are continuing to heavily invest in on-prem hardware, that Black Pearl, the tape solutions, NAS boxes, object storage boxes. But you'll see our largest investment really is in data management and software. And that's what Spectra is all about going forward, is this attack-hardened data management for the multi-cloud world.
Okay, well, it's been brilliant. I'm really grateful, David. You shared a lot of your time and some great insights. So thank you very much indeed for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.